What is up, guys? Wrestling Premiere is here. Throughout the history of wrestling, there's been some strange inventions, whether it's recycling characters or giving away money on live TV. These ideas range from amusing to flat out stupid and illogical. Now, we could choose to focus on a lot of stupid wrestling inventions, but we could do that for another video here. We want to test this out, see if you guys enjoy it. We'll do it in the near future. Before this video starts, you want more Wrestling Premiere content, check out Premiere here. We offer a lot of casual talk in there, some random videos as well, so check it out if you're interested, because I actually upload there now. Let's get into the video. The departure of Razor Ramon and Diesel brought a great hit to the star power of the WWF. While WCW still had the bigger talents such as Hogan, Savage, Flair, and most of the greats from early 90s WWF had something good brewing with the new generation. Razor and Diesel were a strong and integral part of the movement, and after they left for WCW, WWF decided that they were going to act like this was a TV show. They wanted to continue using the Razor and Diesel characters on TV, and initially, the company hyped up the return of the duo, with some actually believing it despite them signing a multi-year contract with WCW. WCW was in WWF's head rent-free, and they almost felt small because of them. Razor and Diesel debuted after JR turned heel and brought them in. The story didn't go over well, and it was dull and clearly lacked any sort of interest. Meanwhile, Scott Hall and Kevin Nash allegedly got an extension after WCW was worried that they were actually returning. It's a hilarious story. I've heard, I believe, Kevin Nash talk about it, but it's funny. But the moral of the story here is that you cannot replace characters in wrestling, because at the end of the day, Razor Ramon, while he is a Scarface ripoff, is still Scott Hall, and likewise for Diesel, it's for Kevin Nash. Plus, you have a better chance of ripping off other wrestlers as opposed to the outsiders, who are probably the, not one of, but the coolest duo in wrestling history. With masked wrestlers, it's different, of course. Black Tiger comes to mind, but with Razor Ramon, there's too much of a personal identity with it. Same reason you can't just replace Stone Cold Steve Austin. The Attitude Era was an all-around great time for the wrestling industry, especially 1998. So at some points, nearly 10 million people were watching on Monday nights, and that's an incredible number. And more often than not, that would lead to some crazy ideas. An idea created out of spite from Vince Russo caused the destruction of careers, legitimate injuries to wrestlers, and a timeless topic that's still spoken about to this day: Brawl for All. Now, I would love to discuss this in a video, but it's been done countless times, so we'll just do it here. The Brawl for All attempted to bring shoot fighting to the world of professional wrestling, and that's never a good idea. It's like bringing a golf ball to a basketball court. It sounds like on paper that there would be a place for shoot fighting, but it never works, and it feels like only after Antonio Inoki nearly killed New Japan Pro Wrestling that everyone got the memo, because there has to be an alternate universe where TNA does a legitimate shoot fight if it wasn't for New Japan Pro Wrestling. JBL yapped about beating people up or something, and Vince Russo took notes and decided to help book this Brawl for All to shut him up. And if you hear about the stories involving Bradshaw at the time, this is almost valid, but not at the cost of injuring the lower mid-card talent and destroying pushes. Another narrative that was strongly pushed during this Brawl for All was Steve Williams. Now, Steve Williams didn't do too well in North America as a wrestler, but he was more than good in Japan. Dr. Death just never got that push in the US, and for Jim Ross, a good friend of his, he was lobbying hard for him to win this tournament. And he did have a bit of a chance, especially after Ken Shamrock and Steve Blackman were out with injuries. I just can't imagine Steve Williams and Steve Austin in a feud at the time. It sounds far-fetched. First of all, I despise Brawl for All because other than the reward being a cash prize, it could have felt bigger if the winner had a WWF Championship opportunity against Stone Cold. And that's what it probably would have been for Dr. Death, but it sounds so out of place. Bart Gunn knocked him out, which was funny if you watch the stories about this Brawl for All. Everyone thought it was a foregone conclusion, and then all of a sudden this random comes in and wins it. And I know, Bart Gunn was a part of the new generation and whatnot, but at this point he wasn't even on TV a lot. He wins the tournament and nobody in the back is happy, and that goes to show why shoot stuff doesn't work in wrestling. You can't control it, and usually a guy like this has an opportunity to get over. Bart wasn't exactly lighting the world on fire beforehand, but he had his chance. And the Attitude Era did offer opportunity. Nobody imagined Bob Holly to turn out to be the way he was a year later, but he was kept off TV, and upon his return, got his ass beat by Dr. Death, who he beat in a shoot fight and was in a no-win situation with Butterbean on the grandest stage of them all. Then he was released. And this is why I hate some of the wrestling culture. They act all tough, but then become petty and all baby with this stuff. And I don't think Bart Gunn would have been a major star, but if Bob Holly, who was stuck in the job squad, managed to create something for himself, why wasn't that luxury afforded for the winner of the legitimate fight you set up? See, all around, the Brawl for All benefited nobody. Now, there's a bunch of matches we could talk about. Some of these are flat out horrific. The scaffold match. This one is very dangerous and stupid. It requires you to take a bad spot. There's no space up there, and while it should in theory bring a heightened level of emotion, it just looks stupid. There was one moment where Jim Cornette took a spot, and it wasn't even that dangerous of a spot, but he ended up blowing out his knees because of it. So that tells you all you need to know about this match. The blindfold match is just silly. There's been some funny moments to come out of it, and while it does suck, I'd rather watch a blindfold match than a scaffold match. On a pole matches have a strong hatred for me, and it's all because of how obsessed Vince Russo was with these matches. He took it over the limit as it relates to the concept. It almost felt like a parody anytime he got his way with this match. If only we got a swerve on a pole match with the next booking decision being in the envelope and the wrestler has to go through with it, then the possibilities would have been endless. Pole matches didn't start off terribly, but it got too silly. You could still do them, but sometimes it looks dumb because the wrestler has to look too tired. Like with a ladder, I understand, but many of these guys climb up the top rope effortlessly even later during the match. Shout out to this flag match though, this was a wonderful match. Kennel from hell. For entertainment purposes, this might have came from hell. It was horrible with the dogs not doing their jobs. Like, they should have had gimmick dogs. And I don't even know what that means, but it wasn't a pleasant walk for the boss man and now Snow to the back afterwards. The reverse battle royal is the entire reason I made this video. How do you decide that not only this is a good idea, but it flies its way out of the writer's room? I'll never know. It's not logical because a bunch of these guys are standing there and brawling and they could just jump in. Like, why is Chris Harris or Chris Sabin not running into the ring? It would make sense if they were far away from the ring and they brawled their way out of the back. But the concept really might be the dumbest on here because it makes the wrestlers look dumber and me, the viewer, for watching this. It's hilarious. It turns into a battle royal with the final two facing off in a one-on-one match, and that's no problem, but the beginning is what makes it horrible. The Punjabi prison. This is one of those ideas that sounds amazing in principle, but then you realize Great Khali has to climb these structures. It's hard to see, and it's one of those things that sounds good in a 2000s WWE game as opposed to the actual match. I didn't think that the first two matches were as good as you could make them, and I still think it's funny that the match designed for Khali didn't involve him the first time around. I don't know what we could do with the Punjabi prison, but the first three matches that have been done weren't that good. Sweepstakes are a massive hit throughout the history of entertainment. If there's a major company, eventually they want to involve fans and hang some prize above their head in efforts of improving or generating more for their business. A, B, C, D, E, F, G, you get it. Well, WWE created their own sweepstakes called the $1 Million Mania. I'm sure many of you remember the weeks with WWE.com constantly promoting the sweepstakes and chance to win $1 million. It was horrible not because of the TV time it was taking, but because of how convoluted it was. McMahon would struggle with the phone, he'd answer some call and it would end up being somebody trolling. They do it again, he gets rickrolled, and getting rickrolled is fortunately still a thing. I had it happen to me not too long ago on many occasions. I thought it was dead, but it's still around. Good song though. Old man Vince was struggling to get people to answer, and it was so bad that it was so funny. And the guy that did the rickroll still ended up winning 200k, so that might have been the most successful rickroll in history. Although someone might correct me if I'm wrong. The ratings did not increase. Then when they ended the thing, the set fell onto McMahon to create a new story, which was hilarious with the show losing its control, leading to Mike Adamle becoming the GM. But all in all, the $1 Million Mania is a horrible idea. I don't think it's as horrible as the other ideas in this video, but when you look at the whole thing all around, it was a massive failure. WWE was always messing around during this time, even though the ratings were consistent. They weren't amazing, but it was stable. 3-2 to 3.5, with 2009's average being 3.5, but from 2008 to 2011 it was hovering around 3.2 to 3.5. WWE decided to do a new concept: guest hosts. Now, celebrities felt like a bigger deal back then than now, but even then this idea wasn't all that good because what are the chances that said fan of celebrity ends up becoming a WWE fan? The guest hosts started off with mostly wrestlers, which makes sense. Then you started seeing Seth Green, who wasn't a bad guest host. He looked very tiny next to the wrestlers. ZZ Top probably didn't know what Monday Night Raw was, and the most infamous moment of the guest host era came in the first month. Jeremy Piven's episode. And this episode was so bad but so entertaining because it reminds you of how much an outsider doesn't know about wrestling. He called SummerSlam Summerfest, and he said it so confidently I almost thought WWE changed the name of the show. Summerfest sounds like a show headlined by the Ultimate Warrior against Mr. Perfect. He had this funny heel turn near the end of the show, and poor Ken Jeong took a brutal fall over the top rope. And the guest host concept wasn't all bad. It was usually better when said person understood wrestling or was a wrestler, like the one time Dusty Rhodes tried to do right by his son only for Orton to RKO him because of the voices. Also, what business does Al Sharpton have being in a WWE ring? The fans hated his guts. He left the show after his segment. It was nonsensical. The NASCAR guys made a mistake pronouncing Kofi Kingston as Kofi Johnson, and it's so funny. There was some tremendous guest hosts in the early days. Bob Barker stole the show This Price is Right show. Jericho played ball here and it made for a great episode. The Osbournes was a good episode, but I think the best of the early episodes was Jesse Ventura. He elevated the show, made the World Championship look like the biggest deal, just the way he'd promote it. He'd call it the Heavyweight Championship and hype it during the show. Mike Tyson was good, William Shatner, but the guest host thing wasn't good. There was some random segments going on that were awkward. The Bella Twins were booked like they had no pride, always jumping onto the random guest host. They were bandwagoners, and most importantly, it did nothing to help WWE's ratings. What's crazy about all of this is the fact that when you look at the ratings from 2008 to 2011, the guest host did not fall. Listen, I think 2010 WWE sucks, but anytime someone talks about it, you think it was like the lowest point from a rating standpoint. Quality was bad, but people still stuck around. I scrapped the video about the guest host era because I kind of found it a waste of time. I don't know if you, the viewer, would care about a random appearance by a mostly random celebrity or they mispronounced WWE or something, but I just lost interest in it. That would have to be a mega long video if it were to ever happen. This is a concept that I personally was excited about upon its announcement, the 24/7 Championship. The title was a flashback to the old Hardcore Championship, and it was a concept that had potential. Mick Foley introduced the title, and it almost promised to bring an unpredictable feeling to Raw, which was much needed. But the issue with this title is that it was not that valuable. It should have been defended on pay-per-views, but then again, with how ugly it looks, maybe that's why nobody wanted to win it. The 24/7 Championship really could have been a great title. There were some great moments with R-Truth chasing the title, Jinder Mahal sleeping on an airplane with the belt, but it didn't have much prestige or worth if we were looking at it from one perspective, because I can't name many matches that were for the title. We just saw roll-ups, and I lost count on the title holders after 2 months. The Hardcore Championship did have its ridiculous title changes, but there was plenty of times where things were heated and intense for the title to the point where said holder would hold the title for a while. The 24/7 Championship is like seeing a 1-minute video of the Hardcore Championship and wanting to replicate it. A better version of the 24/7 Championship would have added a lot to the WWE product and made for an interesting watch, just on the basis of the title promising unpredictable situations. Simple as that. Oh, the Hardcore Championship, we're gonna bring it back. First of all, this title looks absolutely hideous, whereas the Hardcore Championship looked so bad that it's good and actually had worth. This one looks like a belt you'd see in The Simpsons. WWE in the summer of 2019 was trying out all kinds of things, and sometimes these things were to their detriment. One thing that I really despised was how every match suddenly became a 2 out of 3 falls match. Now, I understand why WWE tried this out. It's because commercials interrupt the flow of a match, and honestly, commercials during a wrestling match is so dumb, it doesn't exactly go in line with other sports. Imagine an NFL match ongoing while the commercial is happening. I would prefer short matches if it means that it doesn't go through commercials, but that's speaking in an ideal world. The summer was filled with 2 out of 3 falls matches, and it was always predictable. One guy gets the fall, the other retaliates, and it's just obvious how it goes. But that's the way TV goes, because they're stuck with ads, and the ads are the entire reason why they're making money. Obviously, they're gonna compromise, but again, in an ideal world, one would hope for no commercials during the match. Alright, so those are some of wrestling's worst inventions. There's actually a lot of horrible matches we could talk about here, honestly. There's a lot more in general, but I just want to test this concept out because it was kind of one I imagined in my mind. I wanted to realize it and see if you guys actually enjoyed it, you guys liked it, and were actually interested in watching it. We'll do a part 2. We'll do wrestling's worst tropes. With inventions, I just didn't see anyone do it, so I thought to myself, why not? So yeah, alright, what'd you guys think of these inventions? Please comment down below, and that's it for this video. Make sure you hit the Batista bomb on the like button, or perhaps the Razor's Edge on the subscribe button. Peace, I'm out.